Thanks for staying through the afternoon. I'm glad to be back. I was here a little earlier. And I have another incredible guest with me. So I have with me Brent Chudoba, and he's the VP and GM of Audience at SurveyMonkey. So Brent, if you could just quickly describe your role, because I think the name SurveyMonkey obviously is very descriptive, but the business is actually much more than that today. So describe what you do there.
Sure. So I joined SurveyMonkey about 5 years ago. I joined actually from the investment side of things. I worked at a private equity firm that acquired a majority interest in SurveyMonkey, and so joined really not knowing what an operating role looked like, but knew I wanted to be part of what was going on there, and having done some work on the deal, was just very excited to be part of anything SurveyMonkey. So ran a bunch of different functions with business development and M&A, and then in 2011, we launched our first really new product, which was a data product called SurveyMonkey Audience, which lets our SurveyMonkey customers tap into a base of, in the United States, over 3 million people that we've signed up to take surveys. So I'm the general manager of that business. We've got about 70 people that work on the Audience product, and so I run all the different business functions for it.
Okay. So as a sort of a separate division, how is SurveyMonkey organized in terms of function of sales, marketing, et cetera?
So the way, and I think the other part is, since we have global offices now, we've expanded into Dublin for our customer operations, and we're starting to get some sales folks there. We have a London office we're opening up. We just opened Australia a couple months ago. So the way we structure right now, we have people that sell our core subscription product, and then most of it is self-serve, but we've just started hiring enterprise sales reps there to sell an enterprise version of the product. That is its own sales team. The Audience product and business unit is a little bit different in terms of the customers. So we have our own sales team right now as well. So it's 2 sales teams and sales orgs. And then all the other functions that are really functionally structured. So everybody leverages the marketing team, everybody leverages the finance team and accounting teams and legal as well.
Okay. So we're going to dive in and talk about some of the tools and the strategies and the tools and tactics for how you manage a selling process. Given that they're two groups, do you make decision in a decentralized way or in a centralized way?
I think for big things, we really try to bubble those up and have strategic buy-in from all groups who are going to be impacted. Most tools, like something like Salesforce, is going to impact your customer support team just as it is your sales team and your sales ops function. And thinking about things as you grow, what solutions are going to fit long term. So those kind of decisions for bigger software or things that we touch every day that could become hundreds of seats for the company, those are made, I think they bubble up from the bottom, and then from the sort of top-down decision making where we're getting input from all sides. We're pretty decentralized in finding the right tools for the right groups. So we use Marketo for marketing automation for our Audience business. We do use that for our enterprise sales team as well, but there are different tools. We use ClearSlide for sales collateral for our sales team and Audience. That's not used in our enterprise team. It may be in the future. So we've got learnings from everywhere, and even things like Dropbox and Box, they get evaluated team by team, and then as more usage happens, that'll get bubbled up to the executive team, and we'll start to say what makes the most sense for the business overall. And we don't want to slow anyone down in different regions or different business units, but at some point, things like security and just cost savings and the right things matter for the company.
Right, that makes sense. For the Audience product, I know it's pretty new, but it's growing really fast. The customer sets and segments that you're selling to for Audience, is it very similar to the SaaS subscription product, or is it pretty different?
It started being very similar. So we started that business partly because we had a really cool advantage in building a base of respondents to take surveys, because we have thousands or hundreds of thousands of survey takers every day in every country. So we could recruit from that group of survey respondents to see if we could build our own group. We did that very effectively, and so then our job was reselling it back to our own customers. So we went into the business with the advantage of having somewhat of a captive audience, and we knew, shockingly through surveys of our own customer base, that we could definitely sell. They would definitely be willing and eager to purchase survey respondents. So we do, I'd say about 20 to 35% of the SurveyMonkey core user base does have a need for external survey respondents, so people not on their mailing list, not on their customer list, not visiting their website. So we sell to those users in a self-service fashion. And over time, we've seen bigger companies like Procter & Gamble has become a great customer, and that has elevated to customers who weren't using SurveyMonkey previously because we didn't have those kind of features. So I think it's really just allowed us to grow off of the base of subscribers we had and then go attack other markets that then kind of, that cycle helps fuel the rest of the SurveyMonkey business as well.
Okay. How big is the audience? Is it international? For folks who are here who are thinking they might want to do a survey, they might want to go after, say, physicians in China. Like, how international is it and how big is it?
Physicians in China will be tough to get reliable responses from the sources that we would use for that market. But the audience business has recruited people in the United States since early 2011. There's over 3.5 million people that have signed up to take surveys. Not all of them are active at every point in time, but we've got a big base here, mostly for a consumer population or a kind of prosumer B2B light. Like finding lawyers would be easy, finding chiropractors would be very difficult. And then we just launched in Australia. We launched our customer business on Monday this week. We started recruiting about 2 months ago. So we now have a decent sized group of people in Australia that people can survey, and that's whether it's an American company trying to get Australian responses or an Australian company trying to get Australian responses, or someone like P&G in Singapore, whose some of their markets might be Korea, Japan, Australia for some brands. And then we're launching in the United Kingdom very soon as well this year, and we're going to look at Canada and what other markets make sense. We do have a lot of customers that purchase respondents outside of the markets that we serve directly, in which case we use a big network of partners where we try to validate and make sure we can find the best data sources for our customers.
Got it, great. By the way, we're going to allot a couple of minutes at the end for questions for Brent, so if you want to prepare those, just feel free. We'll save a couple of minutes. So in terms of audience within SurveyMonkey, SurveyMonkey now is a bigger organization. In many ways, you've sort of started a startup within a slightly larger company, and you've been there over 5 years. You've grown your sales team fairly significantly. What are some of the sort of strategies and tools you've used that have been most effective for you?
So I think you're right in that we did a startup within a startup, and that I think was very intriguing for me. It was very interesting to think of what are the products that you can grow off of this base, and you can do it under the protection of a big brand. So when you go meet customers to talk about this new product offering, you're not coming at them from scratch. They're familiar with your tool, and you get to talk about the new offering. So that's been great. The tools it's very funny to see the evolution of tools that we use, where we went from running our business off of tools like Basecamp and products that you use for a bunch of different things, and using them in frankly, like the ways that they were never intended to be used. SurveyMonkey acquired a company called Wufoo in 2011. Wufoo was our main lead form, and it drove directly into an internal CRM system that we built on our BI system. And so kind of going very scrappy, using a lot of Google Docs and Google spreadsheets, and then that's evolved into bigger tools like Salesforce and Marketo that help run things. As we've gotten a bigger sales team, a lot of the things of just managing what sales reps are sending out and how they interact with tools, how they have the freshest collateral and things like that means that I had mentioned before, ClearSlide, something that we started to implement just to have a little more control and be able to enable salespeople more so they know where to go find things, and so that you don't have scattered things all over different Dropbox accounts and desktops and things like that. But yeah, I think it's being this combination of very scrappy with a lot of self-service SaaS tools, figuring out what the right signature tools are at first to get things and contracts done quicker, and then evolving over time and seeing which platforms do you centralize on and how do you streamline operations.
Do you tend to pilot the tools before you adopt them?
I personally don't like any tool that I can't get for free and actually test it out and try it out. I think most companies, especially when they see a big opportunity, are willing to do sort of a BD trial. The nice thing for SurveyMonkey is it is a bigger company and there's a bigger opportunity than just one sales team. So I think that lets us say, hey, let us pilot this for 30 days. Let us try different things. We use Demandbase for validation, and I think the first thing that we asked was, show us what it's worth first. Let us have 30 or 60 days for free. And then if it's great, we're not going to pull it out. So I think those are the things that we even try to do with our own product, of saying if it's a big customer, a big, great opportunity that we see like-minded teams that can work together, we want to give the product away at first. Like, to me, business development should always be pretty free to start. And then if there's a good opportunity, everybody wins later.
Are there things you've tried, without naming names or bashing anyone, that hasn't worked, whether it's a tactic or a process or a platform?
Yeah, I think we failed pretty fast on most things, though. I think I used to run our business intelligence team, and a lot of the tools and platforms, it's not that they don't live up to what they say they're going to do. A lot of it's just the expectations of certain tools to run a BI platform or BI system. And I've seen this with another startup I'm on the board of in New York called Schoology, where they've gone through 3 or 4 different tools, and they've gone back to other tools thinking it would solve different problems, but finding that it didn't relieve their DBs and engineers of actually having to go in and do the work themselves. And so I think those things, in BI, it's really just fail fast and find solutions that work, and then sometimes you have to customize your own tools. And those things, I think, more from a process perspective, an area where I kind of personally saw a lot of failure on our team was realizing how much and how important onboarding and training is. We had, I think early in my management of a sales team, when we went from 5 reps who I could sit and hear a lot of their phone calls, and I wasn't a sales manager, more of a general manager, but managing 4 or 5 sales reps, I could hear how they were talking. I could help them get through different situations. And then when the team got to 10, that 11th hire, that 12th hire, I couldn't have that same experience with them. I couldn't sit with them for 2 or 3 days when they first started, and that's where our system started to break. And for me, it realized from a process perspective, investing in onboarding and training, putting people in place, finding tools and systems that can have whether it's a 2-week program or a 4-week program, those are the things that really helped get us to the next level. And I think will help push us beyond. Right now we're at about 30 sales team members. Getting to 50, I think you have to be excellent onboarding, especially when you have teams in foreign countries.
So for some of the folks here who have smaller companies, younger companies, often a big struggle is when you bring on a VP of sales. Do you have a VP of sales? Is it you? And for a brand new company that has like 3 or 4 employees, how should I think about that role?
I have a director of sales who I think at a smaller company would function like a VP of sales. I think it's really important for a founding group or people that kind of know, live, and bleed the product to be pretty deep in that. It doesn't have to be the technical co-founder jumping on sales calls, but that expertise and passion of whoever started a business, it's good for them to manage sales at first so they can see the process things, the difficulties that sales folks face when they have to get contracts signed and go through different types of approvals. But bringing on someone, I think, who's managed a small team. My director of sales came from Salesforce, managing a small business team in Northern California, and was excellent. He was great at what he did. He came in, instilled process very quickly, got the team very disciplined on using Salesforce, which is a great reason to have people that are familiar with tools that are going to make the business better. But I think I do see, especially these days, teams that are growing inside sales really fast, wanting to put that marquee VP of sales in place. And if they can find a great one that resonates really well with the culture in the org, that's great. But if they're not connected to the product and they're not impassioned about what that product does, and instead of just how to sell it and how to push more product, it will break down further down the line, or it can break down further down the line.
Yeah, that's similar experience I've had. That makes a lot of sense. We have a few minutes left. Do we have any questions from the audience? I can't really see, but are there any questions? All right, we'll just continue on. So I imagine as your team gets bigger, you're going to be hiring more leadership and some other leadership. What type of sales leadership style? And I know there are many kinds, there are many books on this. Do you really like? Is it a mix? And maybe you could chat about that in terms of sales leadership style.
I think as you have more leaders, having a mix of styles helps. We break our account groups down from people taking inbound leads with smaller quotas, but they're closing the first deal or the first interaction with a customer. And then they will, over time, pass those accounts on to mid-market reps, and then those will eventually go to strategic reps, or a Procter & Gamble or Cisco or a Dell is going to go directly to strategic reps. So I think finding the right mix of people to manage strategic reps Someone who can close, 2 million plus in quota every year is not going to take as kindly to someone who comes in and gets really disciplined on their process and tries to tweak what's already working for them. So I think in that one, you want more of a coach over time, someone thinking through how to break through those accounts, and I think they'll really respect someone who has sales experience with big accounts. For mid-market groups, it is a lot about process. It's a lot about thinking through growth strategies for accounts, and for new conversion, it's more repetition. It's more one-on-one cycles. So someone who loves people management and seeing people actually grow in the span of weeks or months, not over the course of years, because they'll probably have moved on if they're excellent. And I think someone who's, in any of those groups, it's someone who knows how to set great standards, how to manage people well. So I've found so far all the best managers I've seen and worked with in sales, they're just advocates for their reps. They want them to win. They'll do anything for them to win. And I think that I think should be something across the board. But then otherwise, a nice diversity of process-focused people that have seen success through just excellent note-taking, excellent discipline and sales cycles. And then some people who are more of that coach, who've got that skill set and have lots of sales experience, is a good blend.
Great, great. And so maybe in closing, it's nice to see someone who's been part of a company for quite a few years, a rapidly growing company. I'm sure you've had a lot of mentors at SurveyMonkey, before SurveyMonkey. What's one piece of advice that you've gotten that has been really helpful to you that you might want to share with the folks here?
I think I've gotten it from our CEO from the day that I joined, and then I think I've seen it and tried to pass it on to people that I work with and for. Especially at a startup that's growing and maybe doubling in people every 6 months or 12 months, the company is a different company with different challenges every couple quarters. And that's been the case with SurveyMonkey, going from, there were about 13 or 14 people when I joined. Now there's, I think, around 340. We just made an acquisition earlier this week that'll add another couple dozen to the team as well. It's a different animal, and I think the biggest things is once you kind of get your understanding of your role at the company, it's going to change. Like, you're going to lose control over certain things, but that's where you got to kind of roll with it and bring in great people that can kind of adjust and adapt with those things, and know that nothing's perfect, especially at a high growth company. The product is never going to be perfect. The team is never going to be perfect, and it shouldn't, because that would mean that there's no room to grow further. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just really the adaptability and not getting too hung up on the changes that happen and the responsibilities that change.
Super. Well, thank you for spending the time with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.